Funding for this program was provided in part by the generous contributions of viewers like you via Patreon. Consider joining them at www.patreon.com/Bible Skeptic. Thank you. The Islamic Quran refers to Jews and Christians as people of the book. The book, of course, being the Hebrew Bible and Christian Bible, respectively. It's a rather apt description. Jews and Christians, especially evangelical Christians, hold their Bibles in extremely high regard. Many of them, and again especially evangelical Christians, believe the Bible to be the inspired, inerrant Word of God. In the following multi-part series, we will take time to examine some arguments given for why belief in an inerrant Bible is considered reasonable by such advocates by considering the top 10 proofs the Bible is true, an audio CD collection offered for sale by evangelical Christian apologist and radio talk show host Bob Dutko. Dutko is described as a leading voice today in the fearless defense of Christian truth, using logic, reason, science, history, and factual evidence to disarm the critics and equip believers. He hosts The Bob Dutko Show, Detroit's #1 Christian talk radio show, heard daily from noon to 4 p.m. on WMUZ. In addition, Bob hosts the nationally syndicated talk show Defending the Truth with Bob Dutko, heard on Crawford broadcasting stations nationwide. The Top 10 Proofs the Bible is True CD set can be found on his website and is available for $20, among other topics of interest to listeners of Bob's evangelical radio program. But it should be made clear from the outset that the following video series is not meant to be an argument specifically with Bob personally, but only with those proofs he offers for the truth of the Bible. There will be opportunity, of course, to point out some of Bob's shortcomings in his presentation of these so-called proofs, and those foibles won't be avoided. It's not at all clear why Bob considers these the top 10 proofs for the truth of the Bible. He does sell other CDs with a similar title, such as the Top 10 Proofs for God's Existence, the Top 10 Proofs Christianity is the Only True Religion, the Top 10 Proofs Dinosaurs Lived with Man, and the Top 10 Proofs Evolution is Scientifically Impossible, so perhaps the name and number were merely chosen to fit a theme. There is never mention on the CD set of any poll done with biblical scholars, other apologists, or even just church members for which arguments are best for establishing that the Bible is true. But one thing we know for certain is that none of these proofs are original creations of Bob Dutko. They are common arguments used by a variety of evangelical Christian apologists and can be found scattered around the internet for free and in many, many other apologetic books and audio presentations. So the use of Bob's version here is merely for illustrative purposes. Bob opens his series by explaining that his purpose is to provide biblical truth according to science, logic, history, and intellectual reasoning. We already had opportunity to examine another of Bob's Top 10 Proof series, the aforementioned Top 10 Proofs for the Existence of God, in which Bob did not fare very well in his attempt to use these same techniques. Bob's use of science uncovered his lack of training in the subject. His use of logic was sloppy, as was his reasoning. Bob even took the time to respond to the first of these examinations. In this instance, Bob's assertion that the first law of thermodynamics provides scientific proof for the existence of God, but there too he stumbled and was unable to defend his assertions. And we are not off to a much better start when Bob opens his series for proofs the Bible is true. He begins by failing to define truth, so we're left to assume what he means by that term. Could he mean that the Bible is true about what it claims regarding the purpose of human life? Does he mean the Bible is true in how it describes the nature of God? Does he mean the Bible is true in what it claims historically? Or does he mean a combination of some or all of these things? Or even something entirely different? We don't know until we actually listen to his CD. Listening to that CD, and this should be set up now so you will understand where we'll be going with this examination, you discover that when Bob speaks about proofs the Bible is true, most of his proofs are in defense of the Bible's accuracy, usually regarding scientific, historical, or prophetic claims that it makes. Bob also draws in other branches of human knowledge to compare with the Bible. for example, knowledge gained from the science of archaeology, to support his claim that the Bible is true. So for most of this series, we will be examining the Bible's truth insofar as its accuracy to report history correctly, to reflect accurate scientific knowledge, to not be in contradiction with itself, and several other so-called truth claims. A word here about how this series will be presented. In the previous series dealing with Bob Dutko's top 10 failed proofs for God's existence, each episode examined one proof Bob offered, making it, obviously, a 10-part series. This current production will have to be in a different format. Not each of Bob's so-called proofs can be easily capsulated in a single episode. So where required, a proof may take 1, 2, 3, or several more episodes to cover that single proof which Bob claims. This is done in order to do the examination justice, to cover the topic as thoroughly as is reasonable, to keep the length of each episode down to a manageable size, and to provide easy reference to each proof, should one wish to revisit a particular detail of it in the future. So with that in mind, we will turn to the first of Bob's proofs that the Bible is true in our next episode.